Grab your twin and grab a ball. We got a new baseball manga. What you doing? I'm your Otakutainment, theacstories with this Otakutainment reviews. We got a brand new manga called Harukaze Mound with story by Togo Goto, art by Kento Matsuura. The translation is by John Weary with lettering by Phil Christie. This is chapter 1, Opposite Twins, which came out on Weekly Shonen Jump, kicking out another sports manga for another one, and Manga Plus on June 15th, 2025. It is the typical 55 pages long. Now, Togo Goto and Kento Matsuura have been working together for a few series, Siu Q Don Burako, and more famously known, Phantom Seer, as well as some one-shots, Kuragari no Kyu Ketsuki, Kamen Kitanteo, a One Piece, with the One Piece 1000 wa Kinen Tokubetsu Bangai Hen, the collection of one-shots there. And then, of course, the 2022 one-shot of this same series. Now, Kento Matsuura has had a couple other things away from Togo Goto. Tokyo Shinobi Squad, also kind of known. And then a couple other one-shots, Pin Pal at the End of the World and Doku Doku. Let's go over the summary just to get a feel of what we're about to jump into. We twins were born on the same day and share the same dream, and we've made a promise to each other. Nobody's more passionate about baseball than the Kazumi twins. Younger brother Harukaze in his golden right arm is a once-in-a-generation talent. Older brother Nagiharu is a lefty benchwarmer. These two have walked the same dream since birth, but when they meet a certain catcher, their destinies will begin to change. The creators of Phantom Seer bring you a serious baseball epic. I'm going to go ahead and dissect this a bit because I did not read this before I read the chapter, and it's kind of a little inaccurate. Well, one, of course, like I said, Phantom Seer has enough popularity. We'll get something from them again. Let's look at no one's more passionate about baseball. Well, that catcher definitely is. We'll meet that person later. The fact that they're twins and they're already referring to them as younger and older, that's not necessary, but it does play a part in this chapter. I don't think they ever say this quote that is right at the beginning. We twins were born on the same day and share the same dream, and we made a promise to each other. This series looks like it's going to mainly be the perspective of the older sibling, Nagiharu. But I don't think either of them say that. And also, Nagiharu's not a benchwarmer. We see Nagiharu pop up a couple times. It's just not as good as Harukaze. Maybe not really good at all in the beginning, but that's for the story to tell. I kind of said at the beginning. We got a baseball manga in Weekly Shonen Jump. Embers is going to be ending next week probably. And there's speculation Blue Box is kind of on its end. So I feel like Weekly Shonen Jump is kind of desperately looking for a show or sports manga to fill a slot and hopefully stick, because I guess Amber's then. I really liked Amber's. It's a shame it just got kicked out for this, because overall there's nothing special about this yet. I was kind of bored the whole chapter until the very end when it's like, oh, this is what the actual story is going to be. But for the most of it, it's like, oh, it's more baseball. And I have to, separate the fact that there's Manga Plus and then Weekly Shonen Jump. They're two different things. Have a bunch of series between the two of them, but there's already a couple baseball series on Jump Plus, Manga Plus, and I guess now there's going to be one in Weekly Shonen Jump. I'm not a huge sports person. I don't really care. I don't keep up with Blue Box. I actually liked Embers, which is a shame. But besides that, I do read a lot of sports manga just because I read a lot of manga. So that is kind of going against it for me on this, but I guess we'll see. I do like the twist at the end, but you gotta wait for that. You probably already read it, but we'll see. So jumping into breaking down the story, like the summary said, there's twins. Nagiharu and Harukaze Kazumi are supposedly exactly alike. Ignore the very obvious fact that one has blonde hair and one is black. Maybe one dyed. Okay, ignore that. But they're both third years at Mitsuba Middle School. They're apparently same height and weight. That part is kind of amazing, if anything. They like the same foods, same idols, and there was a certain game that got both of them into baseball. And they're also pitchings. And apparently their pitching forms are exactly the same. We see Nagiharu shadow pitching whenever Harukaze's also up there. So there's a lot of training for Nagiharu to be the same. Because they're twins. I guess that's the expectation. There are some exceptions. Of course, one is considered older, one is considered younger. I feel like that's usually minutes or hours at a time, a difference between that, but it depends on how you view that. But also, Nagiharu is left-handed, or what they say, I guess in sports, is southpaw, and apparently right-handed is just a right-hander like Harukaze. But also, Nagiharu is not talented. We see Nagiharu pitch more, get a lot of balls, but we don't know if it's actually not talented. There's obviously a lot of analytical part to Nagiharu. It's kind of almost trying to make it seem like there's the smart twin and the more athletic twin. But Nagiharu has all the passion. Harukaze is kind of like that more stone-faced character. So, and then like I said, it's like they're not that similar, especially personality-wise. So, that's going to come into attention later anyways. But they also are both trying to impress Coach Takamine so they can go to Hosenka Jisugyo High School, or Hojitsu for short, what they mainly refer to it as. And then they meet another character, the catcher from the summary, Ibuki Hayama, who is also a third year, joining the team mid-season, was an under-12 national athlete, a really good catcher who disappeared. And now nobody really, I guess, well, I'm assuming Ibuki just got bored. When you're that talented, that young, you probably just get bored and you disappeared. And we see more of that later. Ibuki's there to kind of coax Harukaze into pitching seriously. And then we see it actually, kind of a cool, intense panel. Maybe a little scary looking if you really just isolate that. And then Ibuki catches it easily, showing off those skills and why Ibuki was such a famous catcher for a small child. It seems Harukaze was holding back because of Nagiharu. Maybe intentionally, maybe not. That is actually never clarified. But even Nagiharu notices this. I'm going to say, maybe Harukaze is also trying to be the same. We see it a lot from Nagiharu. They're trying to stay the same as the other twin. Maybe subconsciously Harukaze was also wanting to be like that. There's this thing of like natural talent, and maybe it's true. We see Nagiharu works tirelessly at this. Last one at practice. And not to say Harukaze doesn't also work hard. We just don't see it. So it's kind of focused on, natural talent, which is not always a real thing. It takes a lot of work to be talented. I mean, I don't think Harukaze was intentionally holding back, because if you wanted Nagiharu to also get better, you wouldn't want to slack, because if Nagiharu is following you, Nagiharu also be driven to keep improving, to try to keep pace with you. So it might have been subconsciously, I don't know. But Harukaze does seem mad at Nagiharu about breaking a promise. And what was the whole point of this if it seems like Nagiharu's just going to be doubtful? And there's also this thing that is going in more and more, is Nagiharu doesn't have the confidence. And that's probably a lot due to the comparisons. Maybe it's just a natural part of the personality. You see that kind of bugging Harukaze too. So now Nagiharu actually goes to Ibuki for help, getting better, trying to be a pitcher like Harukaze. But Ibuki's like, you can't be like Harukaze. It's just not possible. And really, it seems like Ibuki, well, not even seems, Ibuki straight up thinking just, I'm doing this to get on Harukaze's good side. Well, a month has passed. There's been some training. It's the last official game. Harukaze doesn't seem to be doing that spectacularly. Just seems a little down. Maybe because of Nagiharu. It seems like it's been a month of them not really talking to each other or getting that close. So now Nagiharu asks to be put in. Seems a lot more confident. Take note of that. And actually does well with a little underhanded throw. I didn't know that was a thing in baseball. I don't keep up with baseball. I had siblings that play baseball. I stopped at T-ball because I'm terrible. Turns out Ibuki had to explain anatomy to Nagiharu, that even though they're twins, they're very alike physically. The fact that Nagiharu is left-handed, which I don't know how that actually works in twins. I guess it's possible. But stuff is slightly off. Every person, regardless of tour, not gonna be exactly the same on the inside. So like things are slightly up or down or left or right, and how people are taught to pitch, especially, is more dominant to right-handed players. So there's that natural adjustment just from experience. Left-handed players don't have that, and then there somehow, just because practicing fielding balls, Ibuki realizes a time Nagihiro throws it underhanded, kind of more sideways, underhanded, however it actually is, that, oh, this is how you need to pitch. I don't know how the coach, manager, they kind of use those interchangeably. I see a lot in Japanese sports teams. But, yeah, I don't know how the coach didn't know this. Maybe the coach did, but nobody cares about the coach. It's about, these main characters. And that's why the coach was like, okay, you can go ahead and go in at a very critical point. I think it was like their team was only up by 1 and already had a couple people on base. So it was a pretty intense moment for it. So the coach must have had some idea. I think maybe Ibuki even talked to the coach about this. Weird to have so much influence as a middle schooler on your coach. But yeah, it's works out. They win. It's all good. This also actually goes to show how similar Ibuki and Nagiharu are. They obviously, Ibuki has this really thought out process of approaching baseball, and shows also the same kind of determination and enthusiasm for baseball as Nagiharu. Now, a little more time passed, we see Nagiharu actually did get invited to Hojitsu, but now Ibuki wants Nagiharu at Hinazakura, who is starting up a brand new team instead of Okaze, which is the whole reason Ibuki came here in the first place. There's a little bit of complaining, explanation, whatever, from Ibuki about how only the tall or the fast pitchers are the ones who popular get all the attention and stuff. And because of this, everyone keeps trying to do the same things over and over to get those kind of players, to get that kind of attention. But Ibuki thinks conformity is boring. I agree. And wants a variety of players to make it more interesting and just have more fun. That's probably why Ibuki left, because everything just seemed the same. And why this brand new team is going to be full of a bunch of weird players. We don't get to see exactly what it is. We see like a silhouette of 4 random players. We don't know if those are actually going to be the characters. I hope they are, because I feel like a lot of times they show silhouettes of people in manga to hint at future characters, but they're not usually exactly the same or even remotely similar. So I hope these are at least right. I'm also going to point out just another little sarcastic thing Ibuki keeps doing, which is saying the right-handed players, but it's always like right in quotation marks. And I like that, but it also reminds me of white right joke. It is sad and scary nowadays. So the chapter ends without an answer. Of course, I'm going to assume Nagiharu's going to end up there somehow. It wouldn't surprise me if at first the answer is no. Wants to stick together as twins, go to Hojitsu like originally planned, but there'll probably be something that makes Nagiharu go there eventually. Maybe by the end of the second chapter, hopefully. Because here's the thing. This, I said at the beginning, it wasn't very interesting. This whole thing was just like, oh, another sports manga. Oh, they're twins, I guess. Sure. The fact they're both pitchers seems kind of like a flaw. If you're wanting to be on the same team and play as equals, when one of you is obviously the ace and the other is not pitching as much. And in baseball, there's a lot more alternating between pitchers because you have to have reliefs, or you can only throw so many pitches, all that stuff. I've been reading others baseball mangas, so I have some idea of this, at least on the Japan side. But I thought it would have been more interesting for Nagiharu to be the catcher. Then they could have been a team. Now it stops of Ibuki's the catcher and Nagiharu, and then they're going to be a battery together, what they say. So they could never be equals anyways. One would always be the other, or be above the other. It's just, I don't know. It's kind of a weird dynamic to do that. But now with Ibuki, want to start this whole new team, have a bunch of outcast weirdos, people that don't fit the baseball norm. That's the more interesting part. So we'll see where that goes. But I mean, that's about it. That was at the very end of this chapter. So it's kind of like okay. I got through it kind of chapter. Let's see where it actually goes from here. Now, actually, remember talking about the art. It's nothing special either. It's typical. I feel like typical sports manga art. It has that kind of not grittiness, but like that kind. It's not clean cut. It kind of has those little extra marks that make it seem dirty kind of tone because it's a sport. They're getting dirty and roughed up and stuff like that. And it seems like the big moments, those really focused and double spread kind of panels are going to be focused on the pitching, maybe some good hits and stuff like that. But it's going to be sports. It's going to be it's just, I don't know, that sports action. And it's like, I don't know what else it will be for that makes the art stand out. I will say, I really liked the panels that introduced the characters. There's only 3 for the twins and then Ibuki. Maybe there'll be more in the future. I hope they keep that style of introducing characters. I thought it was just neat. It was just a cool way to do it. Really isolate it. But besides that, art, nothing special, nothing bad. Just like, okay, pretty box standard art for this genre. Now, last thing I always like to talk about, the title, Harukaze Mound. Harukaze means spring breeze. Baseball's in the spring, right? I feel like a lot of times you hear about it in the summer in Japanese, or I don't know. I feel like it's talked about a lot in summer, but I guess it's spring. I don't know. I think it was just a name that sounded cool. Natsukaze, maybe not as cool of a name, but it's okay name. It's just there to sound cool. There's not really any significance. Spring isn't brought up in any way. Maybe I don't understand the concepts, the poetry behind spring breeze. I mean, I don't. I'm sure there is to it, and I just don't understand it. But to me, it's just like, okay, that's a cool sounding name. What's the actual significance of it? Nothing really. Now, the chapter title, Opposite Twins, it's obviously referring to the very end when everyone's like, oh, they're twins, but their pitching styles is now opposite. And it was really like emphasizing throughout the chapter how similar they are. And so it makes this very ending part and the chapter title actually stand out. So that part I actually really like. That is going to be it for this first chapter review of Harukaze Mound by Togo Goto and Kento Matsuura. I don't know enough about baseball to really judge everything that happens about this. If you do and you want to just tell me about it and how this compares, we want to talk about other baseball manga because I'm reading the ones that are at least on Manga Plus. Go ahead and do that. It's still enjoyable series, even if I'm not a huge sports person. I'm huge, just not a sports person. But yeah, we can talk plenty about that. You'll find me on social media, theacstories. Email me, theacstories@gmail.com. I have a Discord. You can join that. Links will be in the description. Easy to find. But before I go, I do want to thank my Ko-fi and Patreon supporters, VixLab and Julio Vasquez. If you also want to help support me, you can do that. You don't have to, but I appreciate it either way. But that is it for this Otakutainment Reviews. I have been your Otakutainer, The AC Stories. Until another review, go out, play ball.